Today I'm going to do a reaction video to the SPX6900 Monologue by Pond Talk with Blue.
All right, so I asked you guys a very simple question. The question I asked you was, do you want me to do an SPX monologue where I just talk about SPX for like an hour? And you guys said yes, overwhelmingly. Overwhelmingly, everyone was like, yes, yes, yes. Do this, do this, do this. To the point where it was like almost 200 likes or something on that post alone. I said I would do it. I promised you I would do it. So here it is. It's being done. I'm going to say something once. I have a feeling I'm going to have to say it a few times, and that's okay. I'm not scared of repeating myself. I am capable of doing that. I am a holder of SPX. I'm a believer in SPX. So that's the first thing, okay? It's important to understand that because I think that people who might not know might interpret some of the things I'm saying as skeptical or hostile or otherwise or otherwise fear inducing, and that is truly not the intention. um Truly not. That's not what I want to do. That's not my desire here. I don't want to induce any kind of fear at all. That's really not what, and that's not the nature of this. The idea here is, I think that now is a good time, as good as any, to have, like I said, a conversation. And I've had some thoughts that are on my mind. So understand that everything that's going to be said here tonight is going to be said through the lens of wanting to facilitate some thoughts and some discussions that hopefully will lead to other thoughts that might help sort of shift and shape and reaffirm and perhaps challenge some of the assumptions and conclusions that we have made about SPX, about meme coins in general. And now I think, like I said, is a good time to do that. So that is the intent here. We are at a juncture where everyone in memes is hurting. And I think and that's a market wide thing. That's not anyone's fault except for everyone who's selling, which is more likely than not institutions. And traders, people who trade, people who haven't bought into the thesis, people who are not, people who have no conviction or not enough conviction, and they've been shaken out. They're not capable of withstanding current market conditions. And I think one of the things that SPX has been largely immune to in the last year about is number go down technology, right? SPX has been mostly number go up, which has been terrific for everyone, like who's going to complain about that? I think what ends up happening though is, the meme of like good times create weak men who create bad times, who create strong men who create. So I think these were the good times. And I'm using this analogy not to call SPX weak. Again, I want to be very clear. I don't think anybody can deny the strength and dominance of SPX, not only as a coin, not only as a community, not only as a movement, but as an ideology of sorts. So to be very, very clear about what this means and why I'm saying it, that's not what I'm talking about. But what I do think ends up happening inevitably, and it would happen to anybody, and I think it does happen to people all the time, is you get people in, they buy in, and for the most part, I think retail, so to speak, has always been really good at buying and holding because they buy and then they check out and they say, "I'll see you in 5 years, 3 years." They forget or whatever. Um, they either get out pretty quickly or they're in for the long haul. But SPX is different because it doesn't just induce and create holders. It actually creates advocates. It actually creates participants and active participants and people to go and evangelize. And so they become a part of the cognosphere. And I think the cognosphere is far and away the greatest invention and singular thing to come out of SPX by far. I think this concept is the most valuable element here.
Now, I would just like to say so far I agree with him. I think that the cognosphere is an extremely valuable aspect of SPX 6900. It's basically it's the sphere where the community get together, and it has various definitions. Some say it's like our collective mind share, so you can see it as a place where we share our ideas, our culture, and where we socialize. Pretty much anything can be the cognisphere. The cognisphere is the community as a whole online on the various platforms. They all make up the cognisphere, and it's extremely valuable, this concept within SPX 6900.
You know, the most valuable thing there is the cognosphere. With that, though, means that whereas people would normally come by and either leave or hold, you're getting a little bit more involvement and participation from these people, which is a good thing. But it also means that when number go up technology kind of flatlines a little bit and even turns into slightly number go down technology, you start to see how many people really don't look at the chart and how many people do, and even further, how many people have the fortitude and conviction to withstand that. Now, that is as true as that is for SPX, it's even truer for everyone else. But it's just as true for SPX, in so many ways. And in fact, it might even be truest for SPX because, again, so much of the culture implicitly has been built in a period of number go up.
Now, I disagree with the whole aspect of so much of the culture has been built around number go up. Remember, in SPX 6900, there is no chart, so it's going to be really hard for me to even refute that SPX 6900 is a token that only has number go up technology. Yes, SPX 6900, I don't even like talking about the price to be honest, but I have to react to what he's saying. So SPX 6900 has had periods of time where it's performed well, but at the same time, if you look at it as a whole, it was not just one straight run up to success. That's why we refer to it as a slow cook. And a slow cook is literally, if you look at a chart that has a slow cook, it varies. It's not just a straight run up to success and a die off. A slow cook, it's a reflection of the community and their conviction. So it would have periods where people join and then people go, people join, people go, people join, people go. And when people join, they buy, and then out of those people that join, some may lose conviction and they may sell off. They were never really a part of SPX 6900 in terms of wanting to be a part of the community long term. They just saw it as a quick flip and they sold off and left. But then out of the droves of people that joined, there are people that have conviction, that understand the movement, that appreciate the culture, that embody the culture, and they stay and they hold and they propagate the culture, the message, which leads to SPX 6900 getting a new drove of people coming in. And the same process happens again. It's like a filtering process, it's a slow cook. So it's not just a complete number god technology. The technology a is a bit like Bitcoin. Bitcoin was not a number go up technology. We're going to have volatility. That's inevitable. We're going to have volatility in terms of the community, the members of people that come in and leave. And this is going to reflect in price, which is something that we don't really care about within SPX 6900 because the mission isn't really about price. It's about flipping the S&P 500. It's about growing a large enough community that sees value in SPX 6900 over the S&P 500. And as a result of that, that would also reflect in price. But price isn't our primary objective. The primary objective is growing a community of believers, a movement. That's the primary objective. The primary objective has always been about the community. Yes, it's true. When we have periods of time where we're going through difficulties, there are going to be people that express dissatisfaction because they chart watch, even though our cultural slogan is there is no chart. But like I said, it's inevitable. This is the filtering process. The people that chart watch, the people that get cold feet, the people that end up selling and leaving is just part of the process of us growing. Even though we have the slogans, there is no chart. But it's important to have these slogans. They are there for a purpose. It's like a law within SPX 6900. So for people that join SPX 6900 and they want to abide by this law, they want to abide by this cultural aspect and integrate it, and they choose to not look at the chart. That is one successful person that we have onboarded within the movement that is a true believer. And it's a numbers game. It's like the idea of going for no. We're going to keep trying to push the movement forward. And yes, there's going to be droves of people coming in, but not everyone is going to stay. And out of the droves of people that come in, maybe 20%, 10% stay, the 90% leave. But we keep persisting forever, propagating our culture, and then another influx of people come in and a 10% stay. And it's those 10%, I'm just throwing numbers out there. I'm just giving you an example. Those 10% that stay, that understand the culture, they are the people that are going to build the core foundation of SPX 6900 and strengthen the movement. I consider myself as one of them. I didn't join SPX 6900 with understanding it from the get go. I joined it with the idea to flip it. Eventually, over a period of time, I started to understand, appreciate, and love the culture because it resonated with me. And now I'm a sort of person that I don't care about the chart. I don't look at the price, not in the manner whereby people look at it and get emotionally influenced by it. I'm immune to all of that. So that's part of the filtering out process. Maybe people that joined at the same time with me, they fell off the cliff, but I was someone that didn't. So it's just, again, the process, the journey of filtering out the people that come in, the people that come out. And it's important to have these cultural slogans, even if 100% of the people do not abide by it.
So, what does that mean? It means that it's not that SPX isn't battle tested. That's not what it is. But it's that SPX isn't stress tested. And that's not even a fair critique. I think the correct critique is there are a lot of current holders who have not really seen what a crypto winter looks like. And they're not really prepared.
Now, I think the early eons that joined SPX 6900, they were battle tested and stress tested. I think the eons that have joined SPX 6900 from when I have joined it in October 2024, we have been battle tested and stress tested. So, like I said, it's not number go up technology. We are going to be battle tested and stress tested. But from my experience, we as a community are doing really well and reacting to it really well. We have not been a community that is as a result of these stress testing and battle testing and volatility that's dying out. If anything, I think we've been stronger than ever since I've joined. We have been stronger than ever. The ironic thing is, if we're talking about price again, the price then was better than it is now. However, the values in the community and the community has been growing. The community has been spreading the message. The community has been persisting. So if the values in the community but it's not reflected in the price yet, it just shows me SPX 6900 is an extremely undervalued asset, in my opinion. It's more valuable now than it was when I joined, but the price, and I hate talking about price, is less. So we are going through battle testing and stress testing. The eons that joined in the beginning, they went through it. The eons that have joined since 2024, we are going through it. And we're going to continue to go through it. That's the point I'm trying to make. We're always going to go through it. It's not going to be a line up to flip in the stock market. Just look at the Bitcoin chart if you have to look at a chart. The Bitcoin community was battle tested and stress tested, and they survived. And we're going to be no different, in my opinion. We have the culture and we have what it takes to be similar to something like Bitcoin in terms of potential of growth despite the battle testing and the stress testing.
I believe that this coin has evolved quite a bit. It has grown a lot, not just in holders, not just in market cap, not just, while all those holder scan metrics, not just there, but I think it's grown in terms of, I think it's evolved. I think it's evolved. And I think that it is no longer what it started out as. And I think, by the way, that's by design. I don't think that happened accidentally. I think that was very intentional. Um, and this is a criticism that I had and said, by the way, on day one. These are sort of my initial criticisms of SPX, which was that I'm not sure I understand. Even you can go back and look at the videos. I think I said something along the lines of, I don't know how the doctrine, the ideology, and the fingerprint or identity of the meme was kind of at odds with one another. And I think what ended up happening, I think it's safe to say that in the end, the ideology is what won. That's what prevailed. That's what got holders. That's what resonates the most with people. Um, but the residual impact or signature or just the residue of the initial identity of this as the meme that it was, I think is still kind of there, and is in some ways has really formed and kind of drives the way that as a culture SPX moves. For example, um, Marie Rose is a great kind of question of what is Marie Rose doing for the mission of SPX? This isn't this isn't a dancing coin. This isn't a girl coin. This isn't a schoolgirl. I don't know. Whatever she is, that's not really what this is about at its core.
Okay, now what I would like to say to this point is that the beauty of SPX 6900 is that it is a pure meme coin, and we have the freedom to be creative in regards to its memetics. But the most important thing is that when we're embarking on creativity to spread and propagate the narrative of SPX 6900, it has to align with our cultural values. So, and okay, let me continue on that point. And the beauty of that is people are going to be creative, but so long as it aligns with our cultural values, it's going to attract different people into SPX 6900. So for me personally, I was not attracted to SPX 6900 from the whole Mary Rose memetics. I was not attracted to SPX 6900 from the whole the girl is cute memetics. But maybe there's someone out there that literally saw a video of Mary Rose and piqued their interest, and it was their door into SPX 6900, even though it wasn't mine. So I was attracted to SPX 6900 from the more serious talk that I saw coming out of the community, from the more strong write ups, the philosophical write ups, the cultural write ups talking about there is no chart, stop trading and believe in something, the conviction aspect, the community aspect, the strength of the community, and the memetics showing that attracted me to SPX 6900. The anti establishment narrative attracted me to SPX 6900, not really the videos of Mary Rose. However, that's the beauty of SPX 6900 is that people can go out there, be creative, but so long as they align to our cultural values, they'll be able to see what works and what doesn't. You would see in my content, for example, I hardly address and talk about Mary Rose or the girl is cute because to me, that's not the creative aspect of SPX 6900 memetics that interests me. I more focus on other slogans, other memetics in my content. So that's the beauty of SPX 6900, I guess, is that we have creative freedom, but we do have cultural values that we have to align by when exercising our creative freedom. And if people are violating the cultural values, then that's the problem. That's where it should be disregarded, and the community should frown upon that those sort of memetics that are betraying our cultural values. That's what I think, anyways.
And by the way, I don't think anyone's actually out there making the argument that it is. I don't think there's very many people left in SPX that think it is. Actually, I think everyone is pretty like there is pretty good consensus that SPX has evolved past dancing girl video.
And yeah, I agree. I think SPX6900 has nothing to do with a dancing girl video. I agree with that.
And by the way, if you were listening to what Murad said at the very beginning, it kind of had to like you can't be a community that's like anti the pornification of everything if like you have a lot of content of this like really um there are varying degrees. Some of it's like really vanilla, some of it's like really like not prude, but like some of it's really fine, like nothing is risque, nothing's provocative or anything, and then some of it is like really a lot like inappropriate. You can't have that if what you're preaching is say no to these endless soul destroying mindless dopamine addiction sort of destructive things, right? You can't do both of those things. There's no harmony among the when you do both of those things. You have to pick a lane, and so I think SPX has picked a lane, and I think it's the right lane.
I do think though with the SPX6900 Mary Rose memetics, it's to show that we're a community that's a meme token, that's also a joke at the same time. When you think about our narrative, we want to flip the stock market. How do we want to flip the stock market? Literally through memetics. It's actually hilarious. It's a joke until it isn't. So they just chose Mary Rose as the mascot. Some people say she represents innocence, purity, and SPX 6900's movement is a pure movement when comparing it to the S&P 500 and their corruption. I mean, people can interpret it how they want. It's all memetics. And in the end, I guess so long as it aligns with the culture, the best memetics would propagate and be receptive to people. And the ones that are not so great will just die out. The market will decide which memetics work best for SPX 6900 and which ones are garbage, basically. But the most important thing is that the memetics has to align with the culture. So if people are using Mary Rose as their tool to propagate SPX 6900, they shouldn't make her lewd. They shouldn't make her in a manner that's inappropriate because that's against the whole SPX 6900's philosophy and culture of no lewd. To be honest, because I'm not interested in that theme to attract people to SPX 6900, I myself, I don't really see much memes in regards to Mary Rose on my timeline or anything like that.
But so too, much in the same way that we're seeing Marie Rose become a smaller and smaller part of SPX, I think I wonder, what does that look like? How does that evolution continue? Not just on a symbolic level with Marie Rose um, and other visuals, right? But how does that evolution continue with holder culture? We see a lot of holders and community members go out to different platforms, which is excellent, right? That's we need to do that. We see a lot of sort of IRL manifestations, which is brilliant. That's great. Where does the rubber meet the road in terms of actually relating to people who are not in SPX? A lot of the SPX material, content, yeah, is designed for people who already kind of accept the premises of the argument. It doesn't feel like, to me anyways, like there's actually a focus on repackaging this message in a way that is relatable, interesting, and relevant to people not in crypto, to people who might not even really fully agree that we are having the issues that SPX says we're having.
Okay, now what I would say to this is that it goes back to the point that I was saying. We have creative freedom in how we express SPX 6900. So people that are promoting SPX6900, you have to tailor the message to who you're promoting it to. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if you're promoting it to someone that's not in crypto, don't go starting off with Mary Rose. That's absolutely ridiculous. And you got to tailor, you got to use good discernment, good judgment. Understand the person you're speaking to and tailor the SPX 900 message to that person. And like I said, there's flexibility within SPX 6900 to do all that. When it comes to how it's going to evolve, I think the memetics of SPX 6900 can keep evolving, but it has to evolve in a way whereby it's aligned with the culture and people have to use good discernment to choose what they're going to pick from SPX 6900 when they're trying to propagate the message to a target audience. For example, I would say most of my content, I try to target people who are already in crypto. That's what I do with my content. So when I talk about SPX 900, I try to target the market who are already in crypto, they understand crypto, and I'm trying to share SPX 900 with them and why I think SPX 900 is a good cryptocurrency to invest in. That's most of my message is tailored around people that are already in crypto. However, if you're talking to someone that has no idea about crypto, then there's many ways you can talk about SPX 900 with them. There's many ways you can introduce them to SPX 900, but just use the correct approach. And that's important because I've spoken to people that have not been in crypto before and I've introduced them to SPX 900 and I've got their interest. And it's just about the angle that you choose to approach it. And I would say also, there are people in the community that do this. If you look at the wider community, there are people out there that literally do IRL shilling of SPX 6900. They literally promote SPX 6900 to lay people who are not in crypto, and they're literally sharing the message of SPX 900. And I'm sure it's working for them because they're out there on the street doing it, so they have experience as to see what works and what doesn't. So there are people out there that are sharing SPX 6900's message to non-crypto users.
Right. There is a kind of, I don't know if bottleneck is the right word, but there is a prerequisite. You need to accept a few things before you can even begin to buy into the idea of SPX. And what I mean by that is that you have to accept, if I'm going to say here's the problem, here's the solution, people need to accept that there is in fact a problem. I think that's a bigger hurdle than we think it is. Let's start there.
Now, as for accepting there is a problem, I don't think it is as much of a hurdle as we may think it is, because in real life it's apparent there is a problem. It's apparent there is a problem if you just go through the S&P 500 companies, how they make their money, how they do it at the expense of the masses, how the 99% are struggling. Wealth inequality is not really hard to prove. It's really not is not that difficult. Showing how the S&P 500 operates when it comes to taking advantage of the masses as a result of trying to achieve maximum profit at the expense of people, it's not really hard to prove. So showing these factors of how the world is evolving into a world where AI, AGI, robotics is likely going to be a threat to human beings in the workplace, to employees in the workplace, to human productivity is not really hard to prove. And then talking about how SPX 6900 is a counterculture to these problems is also not really hard to show. So I don't really think it's as much of a hurdle as he may be making out in the video, that as if it's a mountain to climb to show people that there is a problem. I mean, since post COVID and how the world is evolving really fast, that hurdle is non-existent. That problem is more apparent, and yes, people may need help with the highlights, but it's not really that difficult to show people that there's a problem, in my opinion.
Um, I think a lot of people are going to be a lot more resistant to this to the idea that there is actually such a problem. Which, by the way, I fully agree that there is. I mean, I don't know how you can I don't know how these people do that. I don't know how they deny that this problem exists, but they do.
And I agree with him there. I don't know how people deny there's a problem if they do. But exactly, this is another point I'd like to make. Look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin came about as a result of a problem with fiat currency, banks, centralization, inflation, value debasement of our purchasing power. Now, Bitcoin has been around for over a decade, and Bitcoin is where it is today. Has Bitcoin fixed the problem of centralized banking? No. But is it an alternative option out there for people that want to invest in Bitcoin and buy into the narrative that it's a store of value and preserve their wealth and save in Bitcoin for the long term? Is that option out there? Does that option exist with Bitcoin? Yes, it does. The same concept applies to SPX6900 in my opinion. Bitcoin hasn't really saved everyone, and SPX6900 isn't going to save everyone. The people that Bitcoin saved are the people that believed and had conviction in Bitcoin and they were a part of it long term. And the same thing applies to SPX6900. With the way the world is going, with the SPX6900's counterculture, the people that it would save are those who believed, had conviction, and bought into it, are part of the movement, the community, long term. It's not going to save everyone. That's the reality. That's just how it is. That's why when we share SPX 900's message to people, we're doing it because we're trying to help them. No one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And we share the message of SPX 900 to bring them a part of what we're building because we're trying to help that particular individual. We're not going to be able to save the world because there are some people that were resilient to Bitcoin. Many people, in fact. So they just missed out. And there's going to be many people as well that's going to be resilient to the message of SPX 6900. And they will just miss out as well. That's just the nature of how things are and how the world is. And unfortunately, not everyone can be saved. It is what it is. I'm just grateful that I was someone that understood the message of SPX 6900 when I did. And I took it seriously.
But they do. And there's a large percentage of the population that doesn't think that the rampant uh, porn addictions are a problem. They don't think that home ownership is a lack of ownership among young people is a problem. They are actually quite fine and happy with renting everything and being kind of wage slaves, so to speak, as it's referred to.
And I would say to those people in the population that do not believe that any of those things are a problem and they're happy with being a wage slave, good for them. I'm not. And I think it's a problem. So I'm joining the SPX 6900 counterculture movement. To each their own.
This is not a small population. I don't know what that number is exactly. I'd say it's maybe a third or fourth, or maybe even a half of the population, especially in the United States.
And I would just like to say that we've got to think of SPX 6900 as a worldwide movement. It's not just about the United States. The world is actually bigger than the United States. And SPX 900 is worldwide as a movement in terms of its growth potential. So when we want to bring people aboard the movement who appreciates the culture, the counterculture, and understand where the world is going to, we're just not looking at America. We're looking at the world as a whole. I think you may be surprised that more people understand the way the world is going than we actually think. Even if in America that's not the case, but if we look at the population in the world as a whole, I'm sure everyone would understand that life is getting more difficult. Life is a financial struggle, and working to retirement is a scam. And they want financial freedom. They want to be able to be free from being a being an employee, a debt slave. They want freedom from the clutches of the system. This will be a phenomenon that most people have and feel this way when you look at the world as a whole beyond the borders of America.
But it's not a small number. A Gallup poll recently came out showing that like nearly 80%, somewhere around there, of Americans don't know anything about crypto other than the fact that it is risky. Most of those people will not do not see themselves ever holding or owning crypto, which to me is actually bullish. Not that second part. I don't like that second part, but I also don't think, I mean, if you don't know what it is, how can you ever say that? But the fact that, there's like the vast majority of people are not yet in crypto, I think that's huge. I think that's important. I, I much prefer that statistic to the opposite, to the fact that actually everyone's already here and we are the last ones. Like I much prefer the other scenario. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Um,
And I agree with him. The fact that people do not know about crypto yet is extremely bullish. It just shows how much more room we have to grow because not everyone's on board yet. Majority of people are still skeptical. So there's massive growth potential being a part of crypto, in my opinion. When that's the reality of the when that's the reality of people still being skeptical of crypto, not understanding it, that means there's a lot more room to grow over the next decades, in my opinion.
Having said that, what that tells us though is that there is somewhat of a barrier, there is somewhat of an obstacle, a ceiling that we cannot wait on crypto to penetrate for us. There is a obstacle in our way that is sort of a common denominator to every community, to all of us, everyone in crypto, but which especially to SPX. I mean, SPX is not immune to this. Now, I think a lot of the things SPX has done in the last year is actually is exactly what I'm talking about. I think it is designing a system that can separate itself from depending on the rest of not only just macro but general sentiment from crypto. I mean, in some ways, a lot of I'm not going to say a lot, but there are a very select few communities, and SPX is one of these very select few that are moving towards, and I'd wager at a speed that's better than almost everybody, separating itself from just another coin. And that's understating it. It's separating itself from the association of crypto. And I think when Murad talks about the GameStopification of any movement, or just GameStop, and what all actually went into GameStop, when he talks about how he applies that back into SPX, I think that's what he's doing, right? He's not saying this is like Bitcoin. I mean, I think that there could be, I think that if you ask the question, like, is SPX just a vamp on Bitcoin? Like, I think that's a question that could spark a very serious discussion, right? But I think that leaning out of the Bitcoin element here and more into the GameStop element, I think that's sort of saying this, like, let this branch off of, give this some escape velocity ideologically, intellectually, out of the rest of crypto. And that's going to be very difficult. And so the question that I have, and there is a real question of how does this movement evolve and move forward today?
Like I said, we evolve, we have freedom when it comes to how we express SPX6900. So long as we align with the culture and we stick with the culture, that creative freedom is there. And so when it comes to our mimetics, the evolution of our mimetics can continue to evolve. There's no ceiling there. It depends on the creativity of the people. But the most important thing is that whatever we do, we persist forever. It's consistency that's important. It's the persistence that's important. And that is where our strength really lies, is in the fact that we can persist forever in propagating SPX 6900. If you look at anything successful, okay, and even if you talk about religions, why are they still around today? Because the believers of those religions persisted forever in their belief in that religion, and they did it for generations. Why is Bitcoin still alive today? Because the believers of Bitcoin persisted forever in their conviction of Bitcoin and what it stood for. And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. The same concept applies to SPX 6900. Why could SPX 6900 as a movement still be relevant beyond 2030? Because the people in SPX 6900 persisted forever with their conviction and with propagating the message of SPX 6900 in a manner that aligns with our culture, but they have creative freedom. That's literally it. We just have to persist. It's not rocket science. Obviously, you have to persist and have conviction in something that is meaningful, something that actually resonates with the masses. But then it goes back to, I believe SPX 6900 has a message that resonates with the masses, just like Bitcoin does. The anti establishment narrative is actually a very successful message that resonates with the masses, in my opinion. And SPX 6900 has that anti establishment message. So, how do we evolve as a movement? We continue persisting forever, we stay aligned to the culture, and we have creative freedom in how we propagate the message of SPX 6900. We use good discernment so we understand who we're talking to and the approach we're going to take when we're trying to share SPX 6900 with that person. And we just keep continuing, persisting. It's not rocket science. It's more like in my mind, it's more like a mathematical equation, a science in a way, whereby these are the steps we have to take to be successful. All other successful cryptocurrency communities have done the same thing and they were successful. We don't have to reinvent the protocol, to stick with the same methodology, and we would also be extremely successful as a movement. And this is why I'm a strong advocate. I'm staunch when it comes to sticking with the SPX 6900 culture, because I think the culture is how we preserve the movement going forward, and it's how we preserve the community going forward, and it's how we preserve our value going forward.
In other words, is it enough to just say LOL DCA? Is that enough? Who is that? Who is seeing that?
And I would say our culture is beyond just saying to people DCA. It's like nitpicking one aspect of our culture and putting a magnifying glass over it, making out that's the entire culture of SPX 6900. No, the DCA aspect falls under the conviction aspect. In other words, if you got to a stage where you have conviction in SPX 6900, you are now a believer in SPX 6900. You understand the narrative, you appreciate the movement, and you believe in it. Then, as a subculture within that conviction, we have the DCA culture. And the DCA culture also has a lot of merits and a lot of benefits for the movement, for the token, and for the tokenomics. When you have a community of people that continuously DCAs into SPX 6900. However, that's not the main cultural aspect when it comes to SPX 6900. It's like saying, is it enough to say the girl is cute and lol and put a video of Mary Rose up in a poster? No, that's not enough, but that's not what the SPX 6900 narrative and culture is about. That's like a category within the culture. You've got to look at the culture as a whole to appreciate SPX 6900. And the DCA aspect is a strong part of the culture, but it's not the entire culture.
I think I was on here with I had another community here not too long ago, and one of the things I talked to them about is that I think that there's maybe 15,000 people in meme coins on X, maybe, and algorithmically, excuse me, we've been sentenced to Siberia. Okay, we have been relegated to a Siberian winter of algorithmic exposure. Okay, the 15,000 of us that are here in memes, that's about it. That's about it. We're not getting out here on it, not on X, anyways. Not like that, right? So, and I'm not saying like that. Saying LLDCA is a problem. I'm not saying that at all. But can that be it for many people? And if the answer to that is yes, which it might be, maybe this is just um, another cultural thing, tradition, if you will, that it's important because it's like an affirmation. Maybe it's important because it's habitual. It's actually an act of reassurance and affirmation, and it's reinforcing the values. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not as complicated as I'm making it out to be. Maybe it's actually very simple, and I'm willing to concede that.
And yes, it's not as complicated as you're making it out to be. The DCA aspect, as you said, has its strengths, because when you see, it's like an affirmation, exactly what you said. When you see people in the community DCAing SPX 6900, and they continuously do that, and you see it on a mass scale, it gives people who are new to SPX 6900 conviction because it shows community strength. One of the main things that attracted me to SPX 6900 was community strength. I remember I was going through the stage of looking at all these different communities, and I just saw from the SPX 6900, and the market was sort of dipping and crashing. But from the SPX 900, what they were doing, they were just propagating strength and strength after strength. They were just showing conviction. And I was like, this is literally the strongest community out there when I was on crypto Twitter. I was looking at all the other tokens. And I was like, nothing is coming close to what the SPX 900 community is doing. And I know we say no PvP, but I'm talking about myself when I was going through the stage of actually evolving into a SPX 6900 believer. When I first bought SPX 6900, I didn't have conviction in it. It took me about 5 months, but this is what I was observing from the community. I was observing the community strength, and it attracted me over all the other communities out there. I literally saw the SPX 6900 community as the strongest. Now, I would say the DCA culture within SPX 6900 is also a way of propagating and showing our community strength. When you see a culture of people and you're in crypto already, and or you're not, and you're looking around and you're trying to see where should you park your money, which community should you invest in, and then you see these people just show up every day regardless of price or charts, and they don't care about the price and chart, and they're just DCA into this token with conviction, and they're showing you this, it is a form of strength and it's attractive. However, the DCA culture is just a subculture that goes under conviction. It's not the entire cultural philosophy and narrative of SPX 6900, but it does contribute massively to SPX 6900 in propagating community strength. Yeah, no need to overcomplicate it. It's actually a beautiful thing, the DCA culture.
But the question is, as crypto is evolving, and as we're looking at how holders and how the landscape is adjusting, I think that if SPX is going to distinguish itself intellectually, ideologically, culturally from the rest of crypto, I think that those distinctions have to uh, 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 fall into or really flow into the actions of the community. It has to be, um, it has to translate. I think we're already seeing this a little bit. We're seeing meetups, IRL, and that's cool. That's cool. We're seeing sponsorships of athletes. That's cool too. Um, we're seeing a lot of like shows come up. That's cool too. But I can't help but get the feeling that there needs to be more. And when I say more, I don't mean more in terms of frequency. I don't mean that you need to create more shows. I don't mean that you need to have more posts. Um, I mean, I get the sense that it's not the. I had a conversation with someone earlier about sometimes it's not. There are two levels to this. The first, at least two. There's the substantive message you're actually um, telling, and then the way you tell it. And those are two separate and distinct things that actually affect each other quite a lot. Sometimes form is substance, and sometimes substance is form. So they have a lot of they tend to play on each other a lot and impact and affect one another quite a lot, actually. But where does and how does a movement coin, as it is, um, how does that evolve? And this is a real question because I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know the answer to this question. I also want to preface this by saying that, and I've said this on stream earlier today, that I've done thousands of multiple choice questions in studying for things like the bar, and what the data says, the program that I did, what it says is that 80 times out of 100, or actually like 85 times out of 100, when I change my answer, I change it from right to wrong. So, so that I'm bringing that up because maybe the answer is you don't change your answer. Maybe the answer is you persist forever. Maybe that's the answer. Just keep doing what you're doing. There's not much more to do, and that could be the answer.
And okay, a few things here. I mean, the beauty of SPX 6900 is if you see that you can contribute in a way, okay, and make the change and evolution of the movement that you see is going to be beneficial to the movement, you can do that, then you're free to do it. That's the beauty of SPX 6900. Be the change you want to see, be the evolution of the movement you would like to see. And if it's good and it's beneficial, then the SPX 6900 community would support you. They would take it on board and they would run with it as well. So I'm not actually sure what, I don't even think Blue is certain himself as to what evolution he wants to see within the movement. Maybe he's being over analytical, but we are literally a movement that's like just over 2 years old, and if you just look at the amount of work that has been done within these past 2 years, it's phenomenal. I mean, just go through the work that has been done within this last year alone. We're talking about the amount of podcasts, the increase of in real life activities, people, eons now meeting up. Just look at the work of Persist Forever, for example, um, by Southern Fried Chad, his podcast. You can see the community doxing themselves. You can hear the community stories. You can see and hear from real SPX 6900 eons, see real faces, hear real stories, how this movement has changed their life, how they are taking it seriously, how they believe and are persisting forever until we flip the S&P 500. I mean, there's so much work that has been done with SPX 6900 in terms of propagating the movement. I don't know what else or what more do you want to see. We literally just have to continue spreading the message. If you look at the growth chart of SPX 6900, are people joining the movement or not? The growth of SPX 900 is increasing since 2000 and since 2023. So this clearly shows what we're doing is working. We don't have to change and evolve from something that is literally working. Remember, it's a meme coin, a pure meme coin. Its value is in the memetics. If anything that we have to evolve and you see a better way of doing so is the memetics. Other than that, the culture remains the same and we persist forever in spreading our memetics. It has been working. We have been growing. We don't really have to change much from what we're doing. We just have to be consistent at what we're doing and we have to consistently preserve the culture. I'm not sure what else to say really because this has worked with other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and it can work with SPX 900. So, what more do you want to see? And if you have an idea, go out and be that change. And I'm not speaking specifically to him, I'm speaking to anyone, everyone within the SPX 900 community. Go out and be the change you want to see in SPX 6900. Just make sure it aligns with our culture.
I don't know if I don't know if that I don't think that's true. I think it's easy to think that, but I don't think that's true. I think that if SPX is a movement, there needs to be, and obviously it is. I'm just, like I said, I'm thinking out loud here. If SPX is a movement, then from where is it moving to where is it moving? How is it getting there? And so I think one of the challenges is that when you list out 1,000 problems in civilization, and they're real problems, you need to explain, and if not explain, you need to show how your proposed solution actually solves those problems. In other words, I don't think it's enough to just point at 1,000 problems, low fertility, low replacement, low homeownership, low happiness, low all these things, and then say, these are a million problems. Here's this coin. One of the things that we all agree about, or we all agree on, and Murad said it on Pontalk several times, is that that crypto is all about telling stories, and that the best coins are the ones that tell the best stories. And so I think, and he's said this, and I've said this, and we've all said this, that the best way to do this is when someone goes, "Hey, look, I just made $1 bajillion, or 10,000 whatever dollars on this coin," and that's how like the fire is lit. But two things about that. The first thing, and I don't agree with that, because number one, if it happens that way, why will it end any other way? That is to say, if the ignition and the transmission of this movement is identical to every other coin that's reached like an escape velocity, a parabola, why will this one be different? Why will it end differently if it mechanically happens the same way? And I think a lot of people have gone to a lot of trouble to make sure that it doesn't. But then the argument should be and can be made that if that is the case, should we want the ignition to occur the same way? And only that way? I think the answer to that is no. I think the answer to that is we don't want that to happen in the same way. Because I don't know, something intuitively feels wrong about expecting it to be different for us. Like it'll end any differently for us. Why would it? It should end exactly the same way it's ended for everybody who's gone through this, right? I don't think that's the answer. There needs to be, I think, a greater focus on connecting the dots in a way that is clear and illustrates clearly, how does this solve the problem?
Okay, now in regards to SPX6900 solving problems, I just see it as memetics. When people say SPX6900 fixes this, SPX6900 fixes that, it's a mimetic way of conveying the message that we as a community are counterculture to this particular problem. And if you are a part of our community, if you are a part of our movement, whereby we're trying to be superior to the S&P 500, we're trying to be superior to the system, we're trying to outgrow it, we're trying to be a counterculture narrative against it, where we as a community, we build a movement so large, so great, so grand, worldwide, that we are against what the S&P 500 has. And as a result of this, it benefits because remember, it's a tokenized movement as well. So the asset is the token around which the movement is working with. And as a result of this growth, the token and the token holders, people that have a stake in the movement, benefit as well. And through this benefit is how we literally and eventually change our lives. The changing of our lives is how it solves the problems that are listed when people say SPX 6900 fixes this. It's not necessarily a case where SPX 6900 is going to change this within the system. No, I don't interpret it as that. It's more of a case of if you're part of SPX 6900, you can improve your life by being around a community of like-minded people, make new friends, and also benefit financially as well. So there's many benefits by being a part of this movement, from the human connection aspect and being a part of a network, as well as the financial aspect. And if you're part of SPX 6900, as a result of all of this, it's fixed the problems that you would have had if you were not a part of SPX 6900 and stuck in the S&P 500 rat race, the working for your employee debt slavery rat race. That's what it is. So SPX 6900 fixes it for the people that are a part of SPX 6900. Not that it fixes it in the sense that it's going to change it on a system level. That's not how I interpret the meme or the memetics of SPX 6900 fixes this. So when someone like Murad does a video outlining all the problems of fertility, wealth inequality, coming of AI, depression, suicidal rates, or whatever, so on and so forth, and then he links it to SPX 6900, he is not saying SPX 6900 is going to eradicate all the world problems. No, that's not how I interpreted it. How I interpret it is that he's saying people that are suffering with these issues by being a part of SPX 6900, okay, counterculture movement, a tokenized financial counterculture movement that's against the system that's causing you to be in this situation, that's causing you to have all these problems, that's working against you. By being a part of the counterculture movement, you could upgrade and benefit your life. You could do that emotionally. You could do that by being now actually making real friends in IRL with people that are on the same mission and movement as you. You can do it financially as well if you're in SPX 900 long term. And that's how it could help you. Is it going to help everyone? No. Is it going to change these problems on an institutional level? Probably not. But could it still benefit the holders and the people that's part of the SPX 900 movement and network? Could they still benefit despite what the world is evolving into in this new world? Could they still benefit from it by being a part of the counterculture? Yes. And that's what I see and understand as SPX 6900 fixes this, what it means. So again, just look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been around for how long? Do we still have inflationary fiat currency? Do we still have centralized banking? Do we still have people stuck in debt, losing their savings by holding fiat currency? Debasement, devaluation of currency, and seeing our currency lose its purchasing power. Do we still have all these problems? Yes. Has Bitcoin fixed these problems on a system level? No. However, did the Bitcoin holders, people that bought into Bitcoin over the years, had conviction, held it long term, did they benefit from Bitcoin by being a part of the Bitcoin community, despite the fact that we live in a world of currency debasement still? Have they benefited from Bitcoin? Were they able to change their lives? Were they able to preserve their wealth? Were they able to grow their wealth? Were they able to be a part of a counterculture movement that is still thriving today? Yes. Were they able to become from a state of being poor, struggling financially, to wealthy and being able to now have freedom? Yes. Anyone that bought into Bitcoin, DCA'd into Bitcoin, had conviction in Bitcoin long term, they were able to drastically change their life by being a part of a counterculture, anti-establishment movement, despite Bitcoin not having fixed everything within our system. The alternative still exists for people that want to opt into it. And that same concept applies to SPX 6900, in my opinion. It's not going to fix all the world problems. But for the people that's a part of the counterculture movement, their lives could drastically change, be improved, and they could, and we could as a community help ourselves despite everything that's happening in the world. We could still save ourselves. So that's what SPX 6900 fixes this means. And that's how I see what Murad is doing when he lists all the problems that we're currently having in the world today. And then he talks about SPX 6900 being a solution. Not that it's going to eradicate all the world problems, but it's a solution for people who are a part of the movement to benefit as individuals themselves and also benefit themselves financially as well. Just like Bitcoin was for people and still is for people to do that, SPX 6900 has the same narrative of being a counterculture solution for people as well.
And I think the best way to do that I think the vessel for that is the holders. Otherwise, if we're just, and I say the word selling very loosely here, because I don't mean it's selling in a commercial sense. I mean selling in terms of persuasive. If we're just selling the idea or the promise that this will fix that problem, I think that is going to be tough because um you know if that is the case, then what we are saying really is that selling SPX will solve this problem. And I don't think that's what any of us really believe. I don't. To be very, very clear, I don't think that's what we're saying at all. I think what we're actually saying, at least what I've been saying, is that these communities as a whole provide you with direction and also an environment in which you can succeed, in which you can align yourself with values and people that are productive and constructive and good, and are all about self-betterment and improvement. And while you're doing that, you are also combating and fighting against a kind of, in some ways, a system that's rigged, in some ways, a system that is um, designed to like beat you and outmaneuver you and can and has. That is sort of a byproduct in my mind. The price and the value of the coin has always been kind of secondary to everything else. I mean, there are safer vehicles than crypto to make returns. This has always been true. And um, to the extent that holding and believing is a better alternative to trading, um, that is a truism that is only true inside of crypto, and also it's only true. Um, well, sorry, it's not that it's only true inside of crypto. It's that it's only relevant inside of crypto because everywhere else people already do that. Like why is retail's behavior so coveted? Why is it so highly like sought out? It's because that's what they do. They buy and hold. That's not because they just magically do that with crypto. That's because that's how they behave with real world assets, right? So so that's kind of how they already are. So that's what I mean. Like that this is only a novelty in crypto and only among select, communities. So if the whole idea is uh is hold, then there needs to be examples of how holding um, has been has helped people, and I think it has. By the way,
I would say the reason why holding is emphasized more in crypto is because of what crypto has now become, with people hyper gambling and hyper trading and showing no conviction, especially as the crypto market is just the amount of tokens are now endless. It's forever expanding, and it's just basically a massive inflation of tokens hitting the markets. And majority of them are going to fail. And majority of people within those tokens are just trying to trade in and out of them to make quick flips. That's why the best communities in crypto, the strongest communities in crypto, just like Bitcoin did, emphasize hodling. Same as SPX6900 emphasizes stop trading and believe in something. It emphasizes to buy and hold rather than sell, because we're also a counterculture to what crypto has now become as well. Holding has helped people. Just look at Bitcoin. It's the best example in the market. People that have held Bitcoin all these years, holding has helped them. And obviously, there's many other examples, but what's the point of going through every altcoin to show how holding has helped people? Just look at Bitcoin. It's the best example.
like I think there are many people who just from being here have seen great improvements to their lives. I do believe that they exist, and I think they need to tell their stories.
Now, if you want to see people telling their stories, just look at the Persist Forever podcast by Southern Fried Chad. I'm not sure what episode number he's on now, but he's literally out there recording as much people as he can from the SPX6900 community, and they are literally all telling their stories. You don't really see this with other communities out there. This is really unique to SPX6900, what he's doing. So make sure you subscribe to his channel, Persist Forever, because that's a good example of seeing eons doxing themselves, talking on camera, long format conversation, and they're all telling their stories. And I'm sure there's other podcasts out there as well. I can't remember their names, but other eons are doing the same thing where they're doing podcasts where people are telling their stories. Um, yeah, so I mean, people are telling their stories. What can I say?
Because otherwise, you're selling a prayer at the end of the day. You're selling an idea of a hope and a dream of what might happen if you make money. But that's not the point. That's not the point. And I don't like the GameStop analogies just because how did that end for people? I don't think that ended so well. People lost a lot of money on GameStop.
Now, a caveat here is that when we use the GameStop analogy, we like to emphasize that how it ended for GameStop, it is not the case for SPX 6900 because GameStop was on centralized rails, and the only reason why it ended really badly for people is because on centralized rails they blocked people from being able to, I believe it was buy. So they blocked people from being able to buy, and what option do you have left then but to sell? Now, with SPX 6900 on decentralized rails, this is the emphasis here, it's on decentralized rails, does not have this problem. No one can neutralize the SPX 6900 movement. No one can prevent people from buying SPX 6900, the token. And this is the caveat here when we talk about SPX 6900 over GameStop. Over GameStop. The reason why we even mentioned GameStop is because of the alignment in it being anti-establishment. Because SPX 6900 is an anti-establishment movement against the S&P 500. GameStop was an anti-establishment movement against the hedge funds, using the GME stock as the vehicle, and they created a culture around the GME stock. And that's what we're doing with SPX 6900. We're using SPX 6900 as the vehicle. We're creating a culture around the SPX 6900 token and a narrative, and we're using that as our vehicle to build a community around with our target of flipping and rivaling the S&P 500 stock market. The main difference is GameStop was on centralized rails, so it was shut down. SPX 6900 is on decentralized rails and cannot be shut down.
And I think people would very fairly point out that this is nothing like GameStop in terms of the actual underlying vehicle, but just that the GameStop analogy is actually just about motivation, and it's about when I say motivation, I mean the motivation of the movement. It's about how attractive it can be. GameStop spread like wildfire because above everything else, it was a good story. You want I before GameStop, I was not even really I mean, I'm still not, but I'm not an anti-capitalist. Not at all, not in the least. And I've never been like an anti-establishmentarian either. I've never hated the establishment. To be clear, I've never been like a strong establishmentarian. But I've never been like, fuck the establishment. That's never me. Like, fuck the system. That was never me. GameStop was the first time where I was like, you know what? Yeah, fuck them.
Now, I noticed a lot of times in the video he would propose a point of um, contention or disagreement with something, but then at the same time afterwards he would understand our message. Anyways, he would show that he understands our message. So he would bring up a point like he did with GameStop, then afterwards he would understand what the SPX 100 community actually says. So when I'm reviewing it, I realize he explains it afterwards anyways. But yeah, so let's continue.
That was the first time. You wanted them to win. You wanted Roaring Kitty to win. He deserved to win. And everyone else, he deserved to win. It didn't really end that way for everybody, but you wanted to, and that's why it spread like wildfire. And again, because people would posted screenshots of all the money they made, and so everyone, there's like a gold rush. The thing about the rush though is that it rushes in, you rush in, you rush out. I don't know that people I don't know that that's what we want for SPX. So then I kind of return to the question of what does this really look like? And I think what it looks like is we need to show and illustrate. Mhm. If we have like if it's a think of like with a video game, think of like a talent tree. I think as a community, we're putting a lot of points into evangelize, proselytize. But I actually think that at a certain point, we will have to, we will have to put some points into internal or just kind of proof of concept that this works.
What we want for SPX 6900 is to be more superior to the S&P 500. We want to flip the stock market. That's what we want for SPX 6900. We don't care about a bull run. We don't care about a 10x, 100x. We want to reach 69 trillion market cap. And we want to flip the stock market, and we want to always and forever stay above the stock market. That's what we want for SPX 6900. I don't care if people are showing their 10x's or 100x's and their excitement. We haven't flipped the stock market yet, so the mission's not over.
And I'm not saying that there aren't examples of this out there. I've seen at least a few on my own, but I think there needs to be a great. I think we need to start telling. I keep hearing something. I don't know what that sound is. It's driving me crazy. I think we need to tell that story. What is that story? What story can we tell? That's a real question, by the way. Aeon Online, yes. You know, and now, and for the people just tuning in now, I said earlier, if people would like to come up and join me and share their thoughts on this or ask questions, just put it in the comments. I will put the link down below. You're welcome to. Actually, I'll do it anyways. You guys are welcome to come up here and join me. Let's see here. I'll take one at a time or so. Let me go put it in the X chat. It could be a bit of a discussion now that I've thrown a lot out. I've thrown a lot out. So let me give you, if you guys want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, that's the link. It'll bring you into StreamYard, and I can pull you up here and we can talk about it. A lot of this has been, it's been on my mind because it's like how at a certain point there is an inverse effect where you kind of get desensitized and you're kind of like, okay, well, this isn't. If we're all just waiting on the number to go up, we're already losing.
We are all not just waiting on the number go up. This is the most proactive community out there. I'm beginning to think that maybe he's not well in tune with what the community is actually doing. SPX 900 is an active investment. It's not a passive one. It's also a passionate investment. We are literally pushing every single day as a community. I mean, we are literally persisting forever. I don't know if we are literally waiting for a number go up, and that's what we're doing on a mass scale. Then, for one, we would not keep growing in holders, and two, I know there is no chart, but there would literally be no chart if you know what I'm saying. The fact that we are in a bad market, okay, and we're still growing in holders, it just shows that we are not just sitting down waiting for the number to go up. We are actively working. On a mass scale, we're actively working. People are putting in the work for SPX 900 because that's the only way this mission and this movement grows and becomes successful is from us being proactive. So we are not just waiting for the number go up. I mean, what attracted to me to SPX 900 was the strength of the community. And the strength of the community was from their proactivity. So I don't understand. I mean, I'm really confused with that one.
We're already losing. It can't be that, and I don't think it is that. I think there's more to it. The problems, if we are saying that the problems will only be solved if you buy SPX and if everyone else buys it too, then I think we're falling short of what this movement really deserves. Because I think the movement is more than that. I think the movement is saying that there is actually there is value in just collecting each other, like and not necessarily not collecting, assembling.
Exactly. The values in the assembling, the values in the community, the values in the collective, the values in forming the network state. It's not just in number go up by SPX. The values in the growth. These are primary objectives. The number go up is a reflection of the primary objective.
You know, when Murad says neo church, neo religions, I think it makes me cringe every time. And you know, we've talked about that. I think it makes a lot of people cringe because I think it's like it almost you almost start to sound like a kind of like savior complex. And I'm not saying him, I'm just saying like the community. Like it almost starts to feel like it's trying to replace God.
Yeah, I don't see SPX 900 as a religion. I know that's an analogy that's used out there, but the way I see that analogy being used is because it's like saying, if you look at religions, the people in religions have conviction, they believe in something, they believe in a creator, deity, a higher power, they have a way of life, and they literally persist forever. And they also go out there and propagate their religion, their message, and they grow by people embracing that religion as well, and so on. So when people say SPX 900 is like a religion, I don't take it literally because it's not a religion. Well, it's not my religion. However, I take it in the sense of there's similarities where a religion has strength because of its people, and SPX 900 has strength because of its people, because of their conviction in the mission of SPX 900, and because of the people persisting in conviction and persisting in propagating the message of SPX 900. So those similarities, it's like saying, oh, so when people say, oh, compare it to religion, it's because of those similarities like that. Like the good qualities that religion has, SPX 900 has taken some of those attributes and qualities for their community. But a literal religion whereby people believe a scripture was revealed from God and they believe in a scripture, it's not a religion in that sense. It's not a religion like that, but it's just taking certain attributes and qualities of religion that is in SPX 900 that has also made religions extremely successful to this day.
Which I don't think that's anyone's intention. But I think, and he's clarified this on Pontalk before, by the way, that actually what he's talking about and what I think we are all talking about is actually serving as a hub where people can congregate, people can gather and share and express these ideas together, um, and also solve other problems. To see people negotiating, bartering, high trust communities. Like that's the idea, right? Where you can like outsource, crowdsource, and develop some of these things. So it's really cool to see people do like talk shows and other like content creation. That's cool. And it needs to happen regardless. Like I'm not saying it needs to stop by any means. I'm not at all saying that. But I think that that's delivery. That's a delivery thing. That's not a substantive thing. I don't think that there's much to be developed in terms of delivery. I think the delivery, I mean, it matters. I think that switching, I mean, I think we have to do short form content because it's like, how can you not in this economy? But I actually think long form is, I'm a little biased in saying this, that long form is actually probably better. Um, and, and, but delivery, like there's only so many ways to deliver messages. I think it's the message itself that is, it's due for a bit of an upgrade. And by the way, like I think that that's kind of, I don't know who disagrees with me.
Now, if you think the SPX 6900 message is due for an upgrade, then by all means, upgrade it. But just stay aligned with our culture. We have freedom to do that within the SPX 6900 community. Take hold of those reins and upgrade the message of SPX 6900. Make it better, improve it, if you believe that's what we need. And if it's a good message, then the community would also take it on board and run with it. If it's against our culture, then it would probably, and rightly so, be disregarded. So whoever wants to upgrade the message, go ahead and upgrade the memetics, but just stay aligned with our culture.
I don't know who would say, yeah, let's all be like, I don't know. Does anyone else think, and maybe again, maybe I'm wrong. Like, this is a genuine question. Does anyone else think that it is okay, or that it is sufficient, I think is probably the better word. Is it sufficient to just say, "Hey, buy this and it will solve all your problems. It'll solve ownership issues, fertility issues, um, replacement issues, dating issues, addiction issues." Do we need to do a better job of connecting those dots? Am I crazy? Am I the only one who thinks we do?
No one is saying buy SPX6900 and it will solve all your problems. I've already explained what I believe the SPX6900 fixes this actually means in terms of our memetics. But we're not saying it's going to solve all your problems. But what we're just outlining is how the world and how people are feeling within the world and in the way that it's going. And SPX 6900 is a counterculture to this. And being a part of SPX 6900, being a part of a community of like minded people, being a part of a culture, being a part of a tokenized financial movement can help uplift your life from being a part of a network of people and what comes with that, and also financially and what comes with that. So it can help improve your life. But we're not saying that it's going to change every single problem that exists within the world. And buying SPX 6900 is going to change your fertility issues. We're not actually saying that. The fertility argument is just showing you the state of the world and how it's evolving and where it's going. And SPX 6900 is just a counterculture to many of the problems with the way the world is going. However, saying buying the token would now enable you to have babies. That's not what we're actually saying. And if that's the line you're drawing, and if that's the line you're connecting, then yeah, that's a false understanding of what people are actually saying when they outline the problems of the world and they say SPX 900 is a counterculture to many of these problems. Being a counterculture to it just means we are a community of people that are against the way things are unfolding. And we want to build and do something whereby we can build our own network state and our own value system and our own community that's against what's happening in the world and the way it's evolving and the system that's being built. And we want to build something that's an alternative value even. And we want this alternative value to be superior to the system and the S&P 500 stock market. And as a result of that, people that are a part of SPX 6900 can change and improve and benefit their lives, which would help them in the way, which would help them in a world that we're living in today. Would it change everything in this world? No. Is it a solution to all the world problems? No. But can it still benefit your life being a part of this movement drastically in a draconian world that we're evolving into? Yes.
Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so. I think, and the thing is, if I didn't think that we could, I wouldn't say anything. But I think we can. I think, I think we definitely can. Um, do a better job. We should do a better job. How can we? How can we not? And if we can't versus want to are two different things. Maybe none of this matters. Maybe we're all just beholden to macro. Maybe all of us, like, nothing can be done because macro is what it is. We just have to wait it out. But if that's the case, then I don't know. Part of me, not for SPX and not for any other coin that I'm a part of. Um, I mean, just be clear. I don't know why I'm being shy about it. Like, not for SPX and not for Apu. I don't want that to be. We're just waiting on macro. Just waiting. Nothing we can do. We're just waiting. Like, if that were the case, I would have shut the stream down months ago. I would have shut it down months ago and been like, sucks. Market conditions sucks. I'm going to go on vacation. Instead, I booked 30 streams this month, and I'm still tagging on more and more and more.
Now, I would say macro plays a massive part because macro is where the liquidity comes from. However, we're not just waiting on macro. I would say the SPX6900 community has been proactively working, and we're going to be proactively working regardless of whether the environment is bullish or bearish. We're just going to proactively work. And you can see that if you're in the community and you observe the community and you're on the ground, you'll see that we're continuously working, we're continuously building, we're not just waiting for macro, and we're continually persisting. The good thing about macro, though, is that when liquidity comes in, what it does is that it rushes into the strongest communities. And if SPX 6900 has been a strong community during the hard environments, then when the ease comes in with the influx of liquidity, that will just rush into the strong communities that have been building during the hard times. And I will say SPX 900 has been building during the hard times. We're not literally just waiting for macro, because if we were just waiting for macro and doing nothing, then when macro comes along, okay, it would not benefit SPX 6900 at all because we would still be a weak community. The reason why SPX 6900 is very likely to go parabolic and benefit during the right environment is because the community persisted during the hard times. We continue to grow, we continue to work for our bags, and we are an active community, an extremely active community.
I think building in the red is how you distinguish something that's just about number go up and something that's about something else. So, and building, by the way, it's not. I don't think anyone can sit here and say SPX doesn't build more and better than almost anybody else. But it's the difference is the promise made and the promise delivered. I think that I think that the more time that goes on, where we're not able to showcase how and explain to people how it actually solves these problems, and not just on a promise based on something to come in the future, but regardless, because again, if it only does this if the price goes up, then it doesn't work. And again, I don't think that that's what anyone's saying. I just think that that's like, but that's the implication. Then I don't know how it's different from any other coin. And to be clear, for the umpteenth time, that's not what I think this is. That's not what I think anyone says that this is. But I think we have to do a better job of actually connecting those dots and saying, this is how we do it. We actually gather people together, and they're able to discuss with each other. They're able to relate to each other, help each other, give each other advice. And the deliverables of that. And by the way, I wager that this is happening already. I'd wager that this is already happening at scale, but it's just not being shown.
I would say it is being shown. It is being shown. You just got to look at podcasts like Persist Forever, for example. Um, it's being shown. Just look at the recent Basil artwork get together in real life. It's being shown. Just look at what Zaymaka's doing in his in real life shilling of SPX 6900 on the streets. It's being shown. It's being shown. Obviously, we're still early, and as we grow, it's going to continue to show more and more, but it's being shown.
The focus at some point needs to shift slightly so that it's not just about these are all the problems, because, you know, to some extent, the people who believe it's a problem already are already paying attention. So you need to continue to convince the people that don't agree that these are problems, that these are problems. At the same time that you're doing that, and thankfully there are enough people in SPX that we can do this. At the same time that you're doing that, you also need to show to the people that did buy into this idea that this is also the solution, even without parabolas, even without going to the moon, so to speak. And I guess the question is, if not, why not?
This is why in SPX 900 we're not price focused, we're community focused. That's why we say there is no chart. because it just works like this. We don't focus on the chart, we focus on building the community, the culture, and propagating it, the memetics. As a result of that, it just so happens that if you are a tokenized movement, that the token price as well would benefit from the growth of the community. The primary objective is always the community. There is no chart. The growth of the community would lead to SPX6900 becoming superior to the S&P 500. It's as simple as that. And I just think you shouldn't over analyze, because over analyzing could make people miss the boat. People that over analyze Bitcoin and they try to get all technical about Bitcoin and its narrative and how it's never going to be hard money and how it's never going to be a store of value, they probably didn't invest in it. But people that didn't try to get all technical and over analytical about it, and they appreciated the community, its growth, and the narrative, and they had conviction, they stood to gain the most from it. The same with SPX 900. The people that come into the community and they're trying to say, how are you going to flip the S&P 500? That's impossible. Blah, 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 blah. How is it going to solve this problem or that problem? Blah, 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 blah. Because they're over analyzing the memetics and trying to get all technical about it. Guess what? They probably not buy SPX 900 and or they probably sell early. Whereas the people that have fun with this movement, that vibe with the community, that help grow the community, that's not focusing on price and chart, and they're just doing this long term, they're persisting forever, they have conviction, guess what? They're probably going to be the ones that actually have a massive life changing experience as a result of being a part of SPX 6900. And they didn't overanalyze or be too technical, because at the end of the day, it's a pure meme coin, and the value comes from conviction and community growth, good narrative, persistence, loyalty, and growing a strong community, really. That's where the value is in, and that should only be our focus. And that should only be our focus.
It's something that almost no one else can do, by the way. Almost no other coin, again, very few exceptions, can actually, because a lot of people just, they talk, man. They talk. That's coming from me. I'm on a talk show. But one of the things I've noticed, people talk, blah, 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 all day long. We're this, we're that, it's at the end of the day, if you can't point to someone or something and show me how this works, it's bullshit. At the end of the day, it's just bullshit. And again, I think that there are so many examples in SPX that I don't know why we don't center that. Center that. Tell the story. Make it a narrative. I think that's what's going to be the most, because we all agree that the best coins and communities in crypto are the ones that tell the best stories. And so that means that you need to have, and by the way, when I say story, I don't mean to lie. You don't need to, nothing needs to be fabricated, but it needs to be digestible. It needs to be convincing and relatable. And other people need to see themselves in the story and say, man, I'm going to buy in. It's like why pay for a gym membership? Why? You don't need the gym to lose weight. You need to just stop eating. And you don't need the gym to get fit. You can do most of it with just body weight, right? And to the extent that you do need weights, you don't have to do it at the gym. Why do people actually buy gym memberships? Part of it is about a commitment. It's a commitment. You're saying I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And in this case, imagine that in your gym membership, you're actually buying stock in your gym, and and then you serve as a walking advertisement for your gym. And you say, "Hey, look, I'm buying shares of this gym as I'm working out there, right?" And that is that in and of itself, me committing to this, making a financial and spiritual commitment to this is good for me. And then I also get to take it a step further because I benefit twice. That's the first benefit. The second benefit is where I get to turn and talk about and share my experience and journey. And then I benefit twice. And by the way, this is really the only way to do it, because otherwise, other people, unless there is that double benefit, that double dipping, other people that are coming in, they're just getting dumped on.
This is why I always say in SPX6900, the white paper is the community. If you want to build your conviction in SPX6900, then study the community. That's all you have to do. If you study the community, you would see that we are sharing our stories. We are propagating our message. We are creating a beautiful narrative. You would see the benefits of being a part of SPX6900 by studying the community. That's our white paper.
They need to have a reason to stay, just like you do. So, you know, that's kind of my analogy. That's kind of my point. That's my point. And I think the answer, I think I did just answer this. I think the answer is, how does this evolve? How does SPX evolve? I think the next step of SPX evolution is to start to center the stories of members in the community that are seeing substantive and meaningful changes and improvements in their lives, not from number go up technology, not from any kind of number technology, but from being in the community. That is the product at the end of the day. There's another side of this product as well, I think. I mean, I think we all think, right? This other side of it. There has to be. If there isn't, then I mean, there's got to be. But that won't happen until you have initial critical mass of the first step of the story. And I think many of us have skipped that part. I think almost all of us actually have skipped that part because they're gonna buy in because of the hope that eventually number go up, but they will stay because of the value of simply being there. And to do that, you have to start to center the stories of people whose lives have improved simply by being around other Aeons. You have to do that. Otherwise, what's the point? And the good news is, I don't think SPX is in any short supply of that. I think there's a lot of that, actually. It just needs to be centered. Those are my thoughts. I promised you an hour. I got to 50 minutes. I don't think I have any more on that. I think that's about it. That's all I got. I'll stick around for just a little bit longer. If anyone has any thoughts, comments, questions, if they want to hop on stream.
And the last part, what he was saying is true, but I think we're already doing that. Yes, it may not be on a large scale like other communities because we're still growing, but we're already doing it. And if you study the SPX 6900 community, you would see that we're already doing it. We are sharing our stories. We are showing that we're real people behind this movement. And I think, I hate PvPing, but I think we're the best to do it. Is that even PvP? I don't think so. Saying we're the best to do it, we have the best community. No, that's not PvP, I don't think. Is it PvP? I don't know. I'll let you decide. But I do think SPX 6900 is the best to do this. Showcase our community, showcasing our conviction, showcasing our memetics, propagating it, showcasing our culture. We are one of the best out there to do this, and just simply study the SPX 6900 community. That's all I have to say, and thank you for watching.